So let me read our little open meeting law. Consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law, consistent with the previous governor's orders suspending certain providers of the provisions of the open meeting law and banning gatherings of more than 10 people. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or a device, that there is a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications to be recognized to speak. And I do know also that, can't remember, but I know that we'll need to do a roll call vote as it relates to any motions made. I know that I believe Mike DeLassio intends to participate, and I got a note from Gretel that she's running late on a business meeting and will join us as soon as she can. So Lee, if you will record attendance, that would be great. And the first order of business, and Sal DiStefano is on as well. Thanks, Sal, for, I know you've got a busy schedule. First order of business is to approve the December 2022 meeting minutes. Any observed edits, revisions, etc.?
None here.
No, I'm good.
All right, Patty, that's fine. And I just wanted to confirm, right, that I had made a note in the meetings when you voted nay, that it had to do not with the substance of the proposal, but with your desire to have the money in hand. I just want to make sure that I reflected that accurately.
I appreciate that very much.
Okay. Hey, Adria.
Hi, sorry about that. Having some issues.
No problem. All right, the first order of business is that we have either a new member or a new member in waiting, Rob Gordon, who will be joining the EDIC pending, I think, City Council approval.
Yeah, I've had that.
You have received final approval.
Yeah, there was O&A and then City Council, and then I went and got sworn in and whatnot. So I think I've completed all the steps.
You're a full member. That's good. Lucky you.
Rob brings, in addition to, a commitment to help economic development in Gloucester, some real financial planning and investment skills that I think will be of value to the city and to the EDIC in particular. But I wanted to give Rob a chance to sort of introduce himself and talk a little bit about his skills and expertise and simply why he'd like to participate in this board.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And what did you say? No more than 45 minutes?
I think I don't think the 5 was part of it.
Okay, I'll make it 3. How's that, or less? Yeah. So thanks everyone for welcoming me to the board, and hopefully I can add value in different spots. As Tom mentioned, if you took a peek at my CV, my resume, 35 years in various parts of capital markets business, sort of semi-retired now. Some things that aren't on my resume that might be relevant to what this group does. And again, I've got a lot of learning to do, but just a little bit more about my background. I grew up on a wholesale nursery in Rhode Island, all commercial landscape projects that were part of commercial and industrial development. I'm currently part of a group that finances, develops, and manages warehouses from raw land as well as rehabs in the Carolinas. I'm a limited partner in an eel farm in Maine, of all things. So a little bit of an aquaculture connection there, saltwater eel farm. And I also work with a global infrastructure manager in London that does a lot of work in the US with public utilities, energy transmission, VA hospitals, all kinds of infrastructure projects. So, some experience across a variety of sort of industrial and economic development type projects, in addition to my background in finance and capital markets. In terms of my interest in this group, which I hope is tangential to some of the things that I've done with my career and currently working on. And again, I don't know what I don't know, but my interest, Gloucester's history, hopefully its future, a big part of it has been defined and will be defined by its unique set of industries. I've been pretty active in what's happening in the city around zoning initiatives, and a little bit of a concern that's come out of that is in every P&D meeting and city council meeting, it seems that there's a lot of energy around residential development, not a lot of talk about infrastructure and commercial and industrial development. And I understand that there's a real pressing need in residential, and that's also frankly where a lot of the money in politics tend to chase. But I do worry that from an industrial economic development standpoint, that sort of has takes a little bit of a back seat because it's got a longer time horizon associated with it, and so may not be as sexy as what's happening on the residential front. So concern there. Very interested in what could happen around the harbor plan. I see that's on your agenda tonight as well. And just understand resources are limited, and want to play a part in some way, shape, or form as resources in the city of Gloucester get allocated to address different types of projects and needs and infrastructure and industrial development. So that's my general interest, and a little bit more about my background. I'm happy to take any sort of questions or pokes, or if you guys want to kick me off now, that's just let me know.
Any questions?
Rob, I can put your mind at ease. All they do is talk about residential development. Nothing happens. You have absolutely no worries there.
Okay.
Well, with
Is that just the board, Patty, or is that the entire city?
It's the entire city.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, except the horrible, horrible people known as developers, the horrible people.
Yes.
Well, with that as almost an intro, why don't we also just run around the room and give a sentence or two to Rob about what we do or what we bring to the table here on the EDIC. So he has a sense of who else is on the board with him. So Patty, if you want to start, please.
Rob, I'm a realtor. I have been a realtor for 17 years. And prior to that, I was a golf course superintendent at various golf courses for 27 years. And I do have interest in residential, but it's really, it's a lot more complicated than all the talk makes it sound. And I do feel I have my ears on the street, since I talk and work with an awful lot of people who have opinions on residential and living near where they work. And the dog, I have to go.
And as you can imagine, Rob, that I mean, affordable housing availability is a huge component of economic development in anywhere in the Commonwealth, but certainly here in Gloucester.
Yeah.
Taylor?
I own a local party rental business called the Event Company. I just bought Gloucester Rental with a friend of mine, so I guess I own two local businesses. I've done some small building, built my current warehouse, so I'm interested in building projects and industrial and residential, and just like to see things get done and try to push things forward when they're stalled. So that's about it. We're kind of working on another industrial project, so that might be really good for you. And then obviously housing is a big concern for me. I have two kids that could land in Gloucester, but I also have seasonal employees that come and go out of Gloucester, and it's impossible to find them any type of affordable, short-term housing. So,
Right.
As well as my regular employees aren't the, most well-paid employees on the planet. So, yeah, both concerns are big.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I'm not opposed to residential housing. It just seems that
Oh,
that's
no.
where all the energy is going, and I worry about our industrial future.
Yep. And they need to go hand in hand. So,
Jerry?
Jerry Oppenheim. I'm a lawyer. I guess I sort of straddle the residential infrastructure divide. My day job is principally as counsel to a group called the Low Income Energy Affordability Network, which is a group of community action programs who deliver energy efficiency to low-income households and low-income multifamily projects. That gets them to some extent into multifamily development as well. And it is that connection that brings me to the EDIC, since there's a statutory requirement for a community action program delegee, I guess you would say. But my work is principally in energy, not just energy efficiency, but to some extent in infrastructure as well, since that's going to be critical as we move forward, addressing the climate. And as you'll see later today, that's one of my big worries, is there's not going to be enough of it to keep everything going, let alone expand.
Thank you.
Adria?
Unmute myself. My name is Adria Pratt. I am a lawyer in Rockport. Well, really Cape Ann, Massachusetts, but my office is located in Rockport. One of three, and we are a general practice firm, although specialize in real estate, both residential and commercial, estate planning, probate, business law, a little bit here, a little bit there kind of thing, everything other than criminal. But my primary focus is on real estate and estate planning. So I came in after chatting with the old attorney who's now retired, who thought this might be a good fit, and I am liking it so far, but I haven't been on the board that long. But it's certainly a good board to be on, and I definitely, given your credentials, Rob, you will fit right in. So welcome.
Thank you.
So, and Adria is not a board member. She is counsel to the board.
Thank you. Yes,
Is that
pretty
what it-
important there. I am not a board member, just counsel to the board, as Tom said, although I do like to attend all of your meetings, so I know kind of what's going on. But I'm usually kind of in the background for most of it, just kind of taking it all in, but certainly available if you need me during the meeting or outside of the meeting or whatever you need. Sorry, I did not clarify that. Thank you, Tom.
No worries. All right, Mike.
Hi, Rob. My name's Mike Delasio. Yeah, I've been on the board for about 9 years. I'm pretty much probably easy to put into a box. I'm a high-tech startup executive. That's what I've been doing for my career. So helping small organizations scale is what I like to do for my day job. Helping organizations here and trying to bring that experience to bear to help make things easy for organizations here in the city is what I aspire to do. Not sure how good of a job I'm doing at it yet, but it's only been 9 years so far, so I'm trying to get better.
Thanks. Sal. And I don't know if you guys already know each other or not, but.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rob, nice to meet you. Welcome to the
Thank you.
board. I'm the liaison to the city. I'm the Economic Development Director. I've been Economic Development Director in Gloucester for going on 9 years. And prior to that, worked for the Boston Redevelopment Authority, now BPDA, under Mayor Menino and Mayor Walsh, heading up his industrial and commercial attraction and retention program called the Boston Backstreets Program for 10 years prior to here. So thank you for joining this great board and for your service to the city.
Thanks. No, I appreciate it. And Yeah, I don't want to impose on anyone, but as part of my orientation, if I'd like to reach out to each of you individually, buy a cup of coffee at some point so I can learn more about, what's going on here and what you guys are up to. And again, if I don't want to impose on anyone, but I'll reach out to you, I think your emails are on the website and see if I can grab, a little bit of time from each of you over the, the coming weeks or so.
Sounds good.
Great. And the only person who's not here, I think she'll join later, is Gretel Seeley. Gretel joined the board 6 months ago, maybe, not that long ago. And she is, I think, a VP of sales for a Maine-based manufacturing facility company, but lives and is based in Gloucester. And she's also a great addition to the board that brings some real manufacturing insight and expertise to this board.
Great.
So anyway, so welcome, and
Thank you.
that's it is a great board, and we look forward to getting some stuff done in I think particularly in the next year. So let's continue on the agenda. Status reports of current initiatives. The first one's a simple one: signage in Blackburn Industrial Park. Taylor has been the lead on all of this, done a great job. And if you want to just sort of update us on what is happening.
I think so. We're kind of in the home stretch. I think you had signs of the walls that are up that we're going to put the actual names and placards on. All the participants that are going to have sent me a check, minus I think Gloucester Schools and Commentier. So we're all kind of paid up on that. And Dean and Bill and their in-house graphic designers talked to Lauren, who was our graphic designer, and figured out kind of the last sign size. So we adjusted the sign size on the first location to allow for more names as we grow. So I think we'd have 4 available spots there, and on the second sign at the corner of Great Republic, I think we'll stick with the regular size, which is like an 8-inch by 48-inch sign. But everyone's so far so good. Everyone's happy, and just need to let them do their thing and wrap that up. Then we're done.
So, and as I think everybody knows, Lee, and I don't know if you can show the image that I sent to you, but the base signposts are up adjacent to the old signs, but they don't look particularly attractive yet because they don't have the individual tenant signs on them. But it's really, as Taylor said, they're sort of ready to go. So I assume in the next couple of months we'll have those and then replace that with the old signage.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, we should be good on that front. And then next, you want to talk about Connellan Road?
Yep.
So no major movement on that. We're waiting for funding. I've just kind of stopped harassing Ted Costa from Bruce Tarr's office and Jill from the city. They don't really have an answer as to when we're going to get funding for it. We did reach out to Corey at Weston and Sampson, who's slated to do the study, and just to make sure we're not going to lose our space on their in their job flow, or the price won't increase dramatically, if we don't commit. So we're waiting for the money to initiate that study. I think we're going to get 40 to 50,000. The study is what, 55, Tom?
Yeah, so we'll get 40,000.
Yeah, we're going to get 40, and so the EDIC will put in 15, and the state will put in 40, and we'll hopefully get some answers of feasibility out of that. Rob, I'll try to send you out our proposal. I'll write myself a note, what we sent to Bruce Tarr about what that looks like, to bring you up to speed, and what this study will be, and kind of give you some background info on that. Then I can fill you in and discuss it if we do actually go out and have a cup of coffee.
Great, thank you.
Fair enough.
And Taylor, are you writing that note to yourself on the condensation of your margarita glass? Is that what?
Look at that.
I have my whole memory right here. This is my memory.
Good job.
So we did reach out, and just to add a little bit of detail, So what we heard back from Weston and Sampson, so as everybody recalls, we did pass a motion, vote 4-1, to engage Weston and Sampson to do this feasibility study, knowing that, or knowing that we have this money that will be coming our way. And in checking with Weston and Sampson, it's clear that we have a couple of months before either concerns about schedule or rising budgets might be an issue. I don't know that we'll be in a position in the next few months to have the money in the bank, but I think I certainly want absolute clarity as to the money is coming and the process by which it will get here. And which is, among other things, Patty's concern. So, we will continue this conversation with Jill and Sal at the city and with Senator Tarr's office, so that really in the next couple of months, we'll be in a position that we feel assured that the money is coming and we understand the process by which the money will flow to the city. Is that fair to say, Taylor?
Yes, 100%.
So one of the things that I have on the little thing here is that in parentheses is subcommittee. So in this case, Taylor and I have been sort of leading the charge, but I would like other members to have a subcommittee that they might be not sort of dictating it, but they might be associated with it. And in my mind, the big initiatives for the next year are the Condolen Road feasibility study, the energy initiative, and I hope that once the municipal harbor plan draft is released, is maybe a subcommittee also that will be exploring opportunities to promote sort of water dependent economic development. So what I'd like to ask is that if there is anybody on the board, and you can certainly, I'd like everybody to be on at least one subcommittee, but if you want to be on more than one, you're welcome. Is there anybody else who would be interested in being on this Condolen Road feasibility study?
I'm happy to be on that subcommittee. I'll defer to Rob if he wants to jump right into the pool.
I was thinking harbor would be interesting, but I'm, wherever the energy is, I'm happy to participate.
Well, I figured I'd throw it out there. If it gets to the point where I use that awesome authority I have as chair to assign people, I will use it. But
he is really a dictator. You but watch out, Rob.
One man show.
Well, he's got a hell of a tennis arm, from what I understand.
Okay, so the next item on the list is Condolen Road lot purchase. And I'll let Taylor also describe this, but Ralph Hobbs, Bud Hobbs from Main Deck Properties owns property on Condolen Road, has submitted a request for first refusal of a lot on Condolen Road that the EDIC owns. So I don't know if Taylor, you want to give a little context or background to this request?
Yeah, you can go on to the Gloucester GIS website and you can click around on Condolen Road. But if you go to the end, we have technically we own 4 lots down there. 3 of them are swamp, and 1 is just kind of a hole across. So the bottom left plot of land is ours, and it is really just a hole, but it does give us continued access, with plenty of work from Condolen Road up to the piece of land we're looking to develop, and it links into other land owned by the city and one other private owner up there that would be part of this other expansion thing. So I mean, I told Bud we'd talk about it, but at this point it doesn't make sense, I think, to sell anything until we know the bigger scope of this whole project. If we've held on to this land since the 70s, and it's really not overly buildable, but he's pretty good at finding a way to build things, which is good. But I just don't think it does us any good at this point to look into selling it. I mean, if someone feels strongly the other way, that's fine. We can discuss it and take a vote. And if you want more background on it, I can send you, you know, a picture of where the land is and all that stuff, or we could even meet out there. But you know, it's just kind of a, he didn't give us a dollar figure, right?
Taylor, how would selling, even the idea of selling, how would that introduce risk to, you know, the vision of of this expansion? I mean,
Well, right now it's the lot touches Connellan Road, and then it touches and it borders the city property. So it would give us a roadway up. So there's other roadways up, and there's other private owners that would be happy to come up. And we have one other piece of land up through that the city owns between Hiltz and Neptune's Harvest. That's owned by the city, or it's an easement that it's still there and it's clear. That's also cleared in the maps. And we've gone back and forth with Hiltz because they've actually just keep pushing out onto our land. I think it's an easement for him, for us, and Acrely. Acrely, we've all made it clear to Hiltz that we're not, you know, that we still have interest in that land. So they're not going to take it through eminent domain or through you know, any type of squatters' rights or anything. So they know that we want it. There's other access there too, but I don't see a reason to limit our ways in and out of that expansion at this point. It's just early in the game.
And Taylor, from my background, what's the nature of the expansion?
It would be industrial.
Industrial, okay.
It would be more, it would be kind of doubling the size. You know, the present Connellan Road is about 65 acres and it's another 60 acres. But it's, you know, and that's what the Weston Sampson engineering study would look at, is the, you know, it's just feasibility of like what it's going to cost, possibly where some of the funds would come to develop it, and what use it would be.
seems like the challenges that we ran into, which are now resolved around, you know, multiple ingress, egress in case of emergency at Blackburn. Hey, I'm catching this from you.
Yeah.
Seems like, you know, we probably want to hold that card, right? To just minimize any challenges there.
Yep.
Because it is pretty restricted access there, the way the land is, just
The topography up there is pretty tricky. So and I don't know enough walking around, so it's just easier to keep all options open at this point.
So I think unless there's any disagreement, we'll inform Mr. Hobbs that thank you for this, and we considered it, and at the moment we're going to, you know, retain the property. Is there anything, and I guess this, I don't know that it's exactly a legal question, but Adria, is there anything that we should say, or other than making the decision here as a board not to pursue this request, is there anything we should do legally that makes sure that, you know, we're protecting our rights?
Well, so I guess just what Taylor was kind of saying in terms of, you know, Hiltz knows, and, you know, Acrely knows, everyone apparently knows that it's our land and that we want it, which is important because, you know, we don't want anyone trying to claim adverse possession on the land and then getting that by, you know, by a court's ruling.
This is a separate parcel though.
Oh, this is a different
I'm just
parcel.
going over, there's other means of egress there. One is that the one between Hiltz, which would be adverse possession.
Okay,
This
but
one is
that's
separate. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. No, I mean, as long as we want to make sure that we keep our land and everyone knows that it's our land and we want it. But that's obviously separate. So no, I don't think there's anything that you need to say to him necessarily. Obviously, depending on how you phrase it, if you want to kind of keep him in the back pocket for maybe a potential future sale, you know, may want to consider that in how you approach it. But legally speaking, I don't think there's anything necessarily that you need to say to him in declining that offer.
Okay. And we don't need to take a formal vote at this point to say that thank you, but no thanks at this moment in time. It seems overly formal to me. Taylor, you're sort of, I think, agreeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you necessarily need a formal vote. There's not a, you know, I suppose if we were going to actually sign something, if there was a contract in place or something like that, it might be different. I think it doesn't hurt to do a formal vote, but I don't think you necessarily need it.
Okay. Well, we'll just communicate with him, and if it feels like, oh, that's it, we can take a formal vote at the next meeting or something like that, if it elevates to that, but let's just we'll communicate.
So
Yeah,
I'm assuming all the conversations have been oral and nothing's been in writing.
there is an email that he sent. I'm trying to remember whether it was sent to Sal or to you, Taylor.
It was sent to me and then I gave it to Lee. I thought it was in this packet for this month's meeting.
I don't think
Maybe
it is. It's on the agenda, but it wasn't in the packet.
Okay, we can send it around so people can see. It's a one pager with no real details, just saying I have interest in this lot. So maybe
Okay.
Lee, do you have it, Lee, or do you want me to resend it to you?
So
Lee, do you
it-
have?
think I have it.
Okay,
Oh, wait, I
and
think it is in the
It
packet.
should be in the packet because once you sent it to me, I put it in the packet file.
I think it is in the packet. It's, I think it's after Rob's resume. It
Yes.
is, let's see, Ralph Hobbs Jr., Main Deck Properties.
January 20th, 2023.
Oh, so it was a letter, okay. Property, I appreciate
It could be construed as an offer of any kind.
he doesn't offer money for it. He just,
Yeah, there aren't really terms in here if that would make this an offer. This is just kind of his letter of interest, I would say.
All right, so it's, as you all know, if it's real estate, it's gotta be in writing, so there's really no.
Yeah, there's no, he doesn't
Nothing
propose.
there's nothing we have to respond on.
Yeah, he doesn't propose a price or any of the terms. So in my opinion, reading that just very quickly, that is a letter of interest and there's no actual offer on the table, so to speak.
right.
And I will read that again more thoroughly, but just kind of quickly glancing over it, there aren't enough details to consider this an offer.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right, thank you, everyone. The next is the energy capacity study of Blackburn Industrial and Gloucester. So last time we spoke about sort of expanding the scope of work that would be done by Daymark to not just be this sort of, here are the current conditions in terms of capacity and quality in Blackburn and beyond, but to also outline the elements of a strategic plan. And I think that we were absolutely right to sort of think about that we ultimately, we need to know sort of what are we going to do with this information and how much might, not just a gap analysis, but meeting those gaps, what might this cost everybody, et cetera. But we did get some pushback as we build a constituency of folks who we would like to participate in this energy capacity study, both through their involvement and also through a financial contribution. We've gone back and forth, and Jerry has been great in advising this, and actually Carl Guston has been involved as well. To really, I think what we've decided is to focus on sort of a phase 1A and B, and phase 1A looks a lot more like the original proposal, which is tell us, what are the existing conditions at Blackburn or in Gloucester as it relates to bulk energy capacity, maybe some information about quality and reliability, but most of it's going to be about capacity and what is National Grid, what are their plans for Gloucester, and therefore what is the gap. And with that scope, both Applied Materials has agreed to participate and contribute. Happy Valley has agreed to participate and contribute. And Jay McNiff, who's sort of involved in a tangential but somewhat potentially overlapping study, has agreed to be involved and participate, but hasn't made a financial contribution yet. But I think that we are prepared to seek a motion by the board to engage Daymark to do this environmental conditions report, phase 1 or phase 1A, at a cost of $15,000, with at least 2 of the tenants in Blackburn contributing a third of that cost. So the out-of-pocket cost to the EDIC would be $10,000. And within probably the next 6 to 8 weeks, we would have this qualitative assessment and better understanding of both what are the energy issues at Blackburn and in Gloucester, and what, if any, plans does National Grid have to upgrade capacity and quality in Gloucester. With that, Jerry, let me, if you'd like to add detail or nuance to what I just described, please do so.
Yeah, thanks. I think you described it pretty well, Thomas. Thank you. The main concern that I think we all have, certainly I have, is whether there's whether the grid has any plan for meeting a long-term capacity need, which is likely to grow substantially, especially as climate policies require more electric vehicles and more electric heat and all that. And so we need to know what they're thinking, if they're thinking. And the reason for that is that the capacity is a necessity for some serious development in the park, as well as the rest of Gloucester. That's because of where we're situated, largely on an island, but on an electrical island as well. That's really a regional concern. It's even regional, a little bit beyond Cape Ann. And there are other potential allies off the island who would have similar concerns, and we could recruit to join us. We've identified one, for example, who's actually working already on their own capacity study in Manchester. So, that's the sort of the long-term objective. The 2 tenants, it's good that they are contributing to the smaller study. I see the smaller study as a way to provide Daymark the opportunity really to sell the idea that I just expressed, that there is a medium and long-term need for capacity expansion, for which National Grid may or may not be prepared, and we need to find out, because the economic future of the region, in addition to the city and the park, will depend on that. The 2 tenants were not really prepared to support anything much beyond that initial study, which is really more of it's almost a scoping study. It's not even a study, is a little grander word for it. But it does present us with the opportunity to generate some interest in what is sure to be a very serious problem ahead. So that's the basis of my support for it. I do want to make the distinction between power quality, which includes momentaries. That's when your microwave starts blinking because the power disappeared for a few seconds, on the one hand, and capacity on the other. My reading of what Daymark has been telling us is that they make a pretty sharp distinction, which is correct, and they don't have a lot to contribute on the power quality side. They'll describe it as it's been described to them, but that's pretty much it. And that's okay. I mean, we we need some clarity, and I'm not sure how much clarity there is in the and all the people we've talked with at the tenants so far, how much clarity there is in their minds about the difference. And power quality is at least largely a problem that customers need to solve. Whereas capacity is clearly something that the utility is obligated to solve up to a point. And just as an aside, Jay McNiff has decided, and bless his heart for this, that he wants to look at the potential for getting enough capacity for his property from solar. That's great. The utility won't like it, and they will slow down the interconnection study that's required in order to do that. So that's a frustration for him and a big expense, and that explains his lesser interest than the others have in an overall capacity study. Anyway, this is we've got a commitment from the city for $40,000 towards a larger study that would have to go out for bid. And this would be the first step in that direction. And that's the only step that the tenants have been willing to make so far. So I think we should go with it.
So, and just to make it clear, so this commitment would come from the EDIC. We wouldn't be using these monies that the city has allocated to us from the ARPA funds. That money, which is a lot, but not a lot, $40,000, would likely be used for further quantitative analysis. But it's not limited to that. I mean, clearly, ultimately, this is the role of this initiative is to make sure that we have sufficient energy in Gloucester to meet our, manufacturing, industrial, commercial, economic development needs in the future. And this is all about influencing National Grid. And so to the extent that quantitative analysis is used, I mean, we could also use this money as part of, essentially a campaign to influence National Grid to meet our needs. And there will be strength in numbers. The more organizations, businesses, municipalities, politicians that would be involved in that campaign, the more likely we are to be able to achieve that goal of making sure that there's sufficient energy, on this island. So.
Yeah, that's really an important part of this, that campaign. And I think part of our task is going to be to persuade folks that it's in their interest to join. I mean, businesses are not always anxious to join collective approaches to things, but I think this is a place where they're going to need to in order to get what they need, the electric capacity they need.
So I have a motion that's available, and typically we could either talk about this more, or I can make the motion and then still have an opportunity to ask additional questions. But I'll first ask, does anybody have questions, thoughts, observations right now? All right, well, let me make this motion. So I make a motion to engage Daymark Energy Advisors to assess the present capability of National Grid's electric system and their related planning to expand and provide quality, reliable electricity to address the future power needs of property owners and businesses in Blackburn Industrial Park and Gloucester more broadly. The fee for this deliverable will be $15,000.
Tom, I have a question first. When you talk about
as a matter of protocol, I think, can I have a second first, and then we'll open it up for questions?
A second.
Okay. Yeah, Rob.
When you talk about Gloucester more broadly, how broad would the assessment be? What would the scope be?
It's a good question, and I'm not sure that we've always talked about sort of it's not specific to. I mean, they're going to be collecting information about the transmission system, generation systems, and its distribution essentially to Gloucester and over the bridge. You know, with a focus on Blackburn Industrial Park. But in my understanding, and Jerry, correct me if you disagree, you know, is that while the focus will be Blackburn, we will gain some insights into energy capacity issues as it relates to what's coming over the bridge and can or cannot support economic development, you know, at the harbor or Conlin Road, even though they're not going into great detail to look at you know, those particular areas.
Here's the problem, Rob, the analytical problem. Gloucester is basically fed by what's often called a long skinny feeder from Beverly. That obviously that limits the capacity that's available for Gloucester, but there's a lot of folks who are feeding off that feeder, and they're not all in Gloucester. They're in Beverly, they're in Manchester, Hamilton, Wenham, and so on. So getting a real picture, and I'm not sure how far along this path the initial study will get, but to get an accurate picture of the capacity that will be available to the park, you have to have an understanding of what grid is planning to do for that region I just described from Beverly North, and then what the demands on that capacity are going to be from all over, both in the park and at Conlin Road, in the rest of the city, and then in the rest of the area.
Great. Okay. So it's kind of like a Colorado River problem.
That's a very good analogy. Yeah.
Other questions, thoughts, observations? All right, hearing or seeing none, I'd like to have a sort of a roll call vote, beginning with Jerry.
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Mike, Gretel,
Aye.
and Rob,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. All right, great. I'll be in touch with Daymark and back in touch with the Happy Valley representatives and Applied Materials, and we'll try to move on this as quickly as possible. So again, another parenthetical note here, subcommittee. So this effort has been led by Jerry and I. Is there anybody else out there who would like to be a part of this subcommittee initiative more broadly?
Yeah, I'll volunteer. Happy to.
Great.
All right, continuing, the next couple will be pretty quick. In municipal harbor plan, draft economic plan. So there has been a draft economic plan that's a component of the municipal harbor plan. The municipal harbor plan is largely a sort of a regulatory planning zoning document, but our committee has been very focused on really looking at, I wouldn't say less interested in the regulatory side, but really quite interested in what can we do to promote and support economic development of a working waterfront. I have various opinions on whether we've been successful on that or not, but there is a draft economic plan that identifies a number of strategies and goals, and I think it will be valuable for really the whole EDIC, for me to give a presentation and for us to sort of take a look at where might we fit in here, what's appropriate given our manufacturing and industrial, legal authority and our capabilities. But that plan, I would have thought it would have been released, but it has not been. So that's not ready to be discussed yet publicly. So hopefully next meeting, but certainly the next meeting or two we'll have that, and then we can use that as a springboard to figure out whether there's a role for the EDIC to play. There is discussion in this economic development plan. I think some of the most important elements of the economic development plan are a focus on that the city needs to build the capacity, namely identify, among other things, identify an individual within the community development office that would be, sort of sit next to Sal, who would be, 100% responsible for, harbor economic development. Currently, we all talk about how important the harbor is to our economy and to the culture and the brand of Gloucester, but there's nobody that is dedicated or accountable to making stuff happen. So that's a priority of this economic development plan, but it also speaks to the need for coordination between organizations such as the Fisheries Commission, the EDIC, other city commissions, and some nonprofits to work together on a monthly basis or on a regular basis to try to make stuff happen. So I think building the capacity to get things done and hold the city accountable for economic development in the harbor is a very good thing. So to be continued. The next item is the ARPA. We talked about this earlier as it relates to the energy. I haven't heard any further clarification on sort of the process for how that money, will be distributed or how it will flow. So I don't know, Sal, if you're still available or not, but if you've heard any further detail about that, I would appreciate it.
Not at this time, though, but we can follow up on that, and I could report back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as we described earlier, there's no mad rush, but it simply would be nice to understand how that money will be available, what strings might be attached to it, and when it will be available, etc. All right, next, financial. Taylor, I'm going to turn over some of this stuff to you that we have some pedestrian but important discussions about CDs and where we might want to put our money. So I'm going to hand it over to you as treasurer. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so we had a CD mature. It was for about $167,000. I was waiting for interest rates on CDs to go up a little bit, so we parked it in a diamond checking account, which is making 2.5%. But I'd like to move it into a CD most of it into a CD maybe, just to leave a little bit of cash if we have to fund the Daymark fund and co-pay on the Weston Sampson fund. That's what, in a collective 30,000-ish, right?
Yep.
So I'll look at all our other accounts, see what we have in the TD Bank, but that usually just kind of funds payroll for Lee throughout the year, and on any other expenses like that Beaver Solutions thing. So I would like to just make sure we have something, enough liquid to cover those two things. Is there anything I'm missing on other studies we might be part of this year?
No, I think you're right. And the way the money for the Condlin Road is that I think we need to pay first, right? And then the other money will fund the remaining. So we would, 15,000, and then the 40,000 would pay the remainder.
Right. So, but get that money back into a CD before rates go back down. So I think I do need a letter though from them for some reason. Other banks were less restrictive. I think if Institute for Savings would let me make decisions. So I might need a letter from the board, which would be, I guess, a letter drafted by Lee and signed by Tom, perhaps.
Yeah,
Once I make that decision. But if there's anyone who feels strongly about us not putting the money into a CD and holding it into a only slightly lower interest bearing checking account, there's nothing super creative we can do with our money, unfortunately. So
What is your thought about the term of the CD?
I think
My
it's
question
23. It's 23 months, I think, was their best CD at the moment.
rates were around 4.5, low 4s. What were they?
Yeah, low 4s. I think I looked it up online. I looked up today's rates and they were down to 3.5. So I had gotten that 4 rate by calling them. So there might be something that they're not advertising.
Yeah, and it's gonna bounce around. I mean, every day it seems like
Yep.
somebody's reacting to something. But the other consideration is how long to go, and that's, at some point rates are gonna drop precipitously. So
Right.
if you go longer, you have the advantage of keeping the higher rate longer. On the other hand, we may need the money. So
Right. Well, we also then the other thing is we have 2 more CDs maturing. I think one in September, one in November. So I don't have all that stuff's at my desk, in my office. So what I will do for the next meeting is maybe give you a real firm financial picture. The thing we were talking about today was just kind of getting that money back into a little bit higher interest bearing something, which would be a CD for potentially the next couple of years. So.
Yeah, it sounds like if we have others coming due, this is a pretty safe bet that we could park it somewhere for a couple of years and most likely not have any issues, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
And what I'll try to do is make sure that they're maturing on some type of staggered schedule. So we always have something on the horizon that we could be liquid with. And then we also have something and more of a long-term, hopefully more profitable hold.
yeah, that's really important, and that it's a real.
Okay.
It's really impossible to guess what rates are going to do between.
Oh, yeah. I mean, right.
Hey,
Right.
Capital One just had a 5% for 11 months, which was kind of a sweet deal. So it's a shorter term, but you might just want to look that one up and see if they're still taking investments in that one.
Okay.
So I think that in going back to Ruth's leadership on the board, we should have a vote authorizing Taylor, the board, to reinvest this money in a CD. You want to do that just now for this up to $167,000 and
Yeah.
Okay, so if I can make a motion, then
Well, let me just ask this. Taylor mentioned the bank's requirement of a letter. So how much detail are they going to need?
I don't think much. It's kind of, they let me, when it matured, they let me open up a savings account with no letter. So I don't know why they need a letter stating that I can put it back into a CD, but that's what, when I went to meet with Teresa, that's what she said. So.
And I feel like at some point in the last year or whatever, I think if we were to vote and then in the letter say the board voted on February 21st authorizing Taylor to, that would be so, and then we have minutes reflecting that would be more than adequate.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep.
Thanks,
Well,
Ed.
it'd be better not to guess, but
Right.
they may want a letter that says you are authorized to buy a 23-month CD, but not a 20.
Right. And I can check with her. And if it can't happen this month, it'll happen next month. It's not, we're not talking tons of money we're at risk of losing. It's not, these aren't timed investments. So that's fine.
So I'd like to make a motion authorizing the Gloucester EDIC and Taylor to invest up to $167,000 in a market rate CD. That language sound okay? Can I
Second.
second, Mike? All in favor? I'm in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Okay. Excellent. All right, as we go from $167,000 to $400, the Beaver Solutions is the company that manages the beaver mitigation trap stuff that we have out near Conlin Road. So we need to renew that contract of $400 that has them go out and check it on a regular basis and do sort of an annual inspection and make sure it's operating appropriately. Are we all in favor of authorizing the payment of that bill? I think it's small enough that I don't know that a vote is necessary.
Do we have a big beaver problem around here?
Just on our land. Just on our land.
Not as long as we keep paying Beaver Solutions.
Right. Yeah. We've got 3 unbuildable lots that the beavers make sure remain unbuildable. So, and we pay dearly to make sure they can continue to do that.
Glad they're buildable, but only for beavers.
Right. Exactly. They're having a grand old time down there. Yeah.
So we've already talked about the transfer money to a new CD account. Mass Econ dues, I can't remember whether that's in there. It's $1,000. If I recall correctly. So, you know, I support this. We haven't done much with Mass Econ and Peter Aber, who's the executive director out there, but I think it's you know, it's good to be part of a consortium of companies and enterprises that are looking out for economic development. When we have asked Mass Econ to for information, or I spoke at one of their conferences probably now a couple of years ago, but they've been helpful. They do represent some other economic development corps. So I would, I think it's of value to participate in a broad, an association that represents economic development in the Commonwealth, but we're not at the moment getting any specific value out of it. So I certainly can appreciate if other people have different ideas.
I think it's going to be important for us to be a member, at least going forward with, I mean, I think it can help us with the power issue. If we reached out to other people in that organization, said, hey, how do you deal with it? And I think going forward with this Conlin thing, it could help us with funding and funding strategies. And, you know, again, I know, you know, Sal can help us with some of that, like where to look for the money. But I think overall, my opinion, is that we stick with it. But again,
Yeah.
if other people have opinions.
Oh, sorry, interrupt you, Taylor.
Nope, I'm done.
No, I also think it's valuable. I think especially in terms of the, you know, the biotech concentration that we have in the state and Mass Econ as well, right? Seems to me like that's those are good alliances and good associations to be able to leverage.
Tom, is there someone from that group that might just join a meeting and spend 15 minutes talking about what kinds of benefits? I mean, we could do it. We should do it anyway, but just so we can understand how we could maximize that and some things that they might be able to help us with that we don't even know they do.
Yep.
It's a great idea. We've churned the board a bit, and Peter seemed agreeable last time he came out to meet us, right? So I don't know why he wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure that he would do it, or maybe one of his colleagues. But I think especially in light of this sort of energy initiative, which has a regional focus, and the feasibility study, which is certainly not going to be built out for a number of years, but these are 2 items that are relevant to mass econ and many communities. So I think it's a great idea to ask them to come on and speak and give them a little context for what the Gloucester EDIC is doing at this point in time. So I'll follow up on that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so all in favor, right? Motion to approve the dues. Great. Other new business, anything that anybody else would, I have one item, but anything that anybody else would like to bring to the attention? So the other item that I have is that we heard from an attorney in Gloucester who I assume who has an interest in 17 Condolin Road. It's Jonathan Pope is a cabinet maker builder, and I don't know whether he's selling the property or exactly what's happening, but there's no record at the Registry of Deeds of the EDIC transferring that property to anybody. And so she was inquiring about that. Lee, you've found a file that has.
I went through all of the minutes from 1999 to present. There was a lot of motions made, but I could not find this particular one on this particular address, 17 Condolin Road. There was a file that was labeled Condolin Ownership, and this particular attorney did come in and review it, but found nothing in the file.
So I'll follow up with, I guess I'll follow up with John Cunningham, and I'll follow up with the lawyer to see, what we can do. I mean, it sounds like, I don't think I can't remember the year, but none of us were on the board, but something fell through the cracks here. And we'll do whatever we can to help find the documentation that they need. So
I assume there's other documents showing that they purchased it, right? This is just like a small doc that didn't get filed by the lawyers at the time or something?
yeah, do you remember, Lee, exactly? I'm trying to remember whether I don't think I printed out the
I think they do have official documentation, but they just need something from the EDIC.
Okay.
So,
As long as, I mean, if it's on the up and up, I mean, I hate to make things difficult over some long ago mistake from someone else. So if anything we have, if you want to send it to us or whatever, all for expediting this for them.
Yep. Okay. I'll follow back up. All right, unless anybody else has any other issues, I think we can adjourn at 5:40. The next meeting is March 21st, I think. Am I correct?
correct.
Carry on, stay warm. We'll talk to you, see you soon. And if I can say, so Lee, if you can immediately look into seeing whether we could have an in-person meeting on March 21st.
I will. I'll check tomorrow to see if the Harbor Master's office is available.
That'd be great. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Good night.
See you guys.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Nice
Thanks.
to meet everyone. Thank you.